Hey guys, welcome to the daily review for July 12th. It's about 3:30 p.m. In the eastern side of the United States, and so the daily bars are getting ready to close here for us. And first of all, just go over the news. Tomorrow, the main thing that I'll be looking at is the 8:30 a.m. news, which is PPI for the U.S. dollar. And I actually will link to an article because Tony just recently wrote an article where he referenced this and some other U.S. dollar news that you might want to check out. And then later on there is some other US dollar news, but I think the 8:30 a.m. news is the thing that I'll be focusing on most as far as news is concerned. Don't forget that there's also a tentative euro announcement. That's the 10-year bond auction, so I'm not sure how that's going to play out, obviously, but definitely something to keep in mind as you're trading tomorrow. Okay, so that's the major news. Not a ton of news tomorrow, and also, of course, keep in mind that it's a Friday, so Fridays can be interesting and also can be slow, so just keep that in mind. Okay, the next is our terms. These are very important, as I try to mention every day, because the U.S. government is very strict about what we are and are not allowed to do. They want us to be very clear that this is for educational purposes only, and that we are not registered or qualified or licensed or anything to provide investment advice and tell you what to do with your money. So you got to be very aware of that. But hopefully this is beneficial for you in that educational way. Alright, let's jump into the analysis. Now for me today, the market was for the most part a little bit annoying. And what I mean by annoying is that it didn't really continue with the momentum that we had before, because there was a decent amount of momentum in a lot of pairs. It didn't really continue with that, and it didn't really reject it and make a reversal either. It kind of just floated the other way for the most part, or didn't move much in some situations. So for me, it was a little bit annoying. As a trader, I want to see strong signals for whatever direction, and for the most part, unless I'm in a trade, of course, I don't really care too much about the direction. I just want a strong, clear signal. And I don't think today we really saw that too much. And as I go through the analysis, you'll kind of see what I mean. One example, obviously, the euro dollar continued to be bearish, so at least that was consistent, but obviously not a ton of momentum. I was hoping that after it broke this level here, and got through that we're going to see one really strong bar in the downward direction that just was really loaded with a lot of momentum to the downside, of course, through this. But we didn't really see that. Kind of just a half bar with a little bit of tail coming back the other way. So for, obviously your euro dollar shorts, if you're short on that, that doesn't give you a ton of pips, obviously, if you are short, and it doesn't give you a ton of confidence that it's going to continue. So just not a great overall signal, and not the kind of bar that you want after breaking through a major level. And really, the euro US dollar is not nearly as bad as some of the other pairs, like the euro pound, which is one that I've been watching and also that I'm short on currently. I talked about this a long time ago, and I got short on the break of the descending triangle here. So this trade is up. And so I saw this stall bar yesterday. You can see this stall bar in the middle. I have to cover the whole thing when I use my fat marker. But that was kind of a stall bar. And so what I'm expecting here is, okay, either I'm going to get a big fat bounce the other way, a big bull candle, and I'm going to get out of the trade, or I'm going to get a really strong continuation to the downside after the stall bar. And instead, I got something in between, which is difficult to manage because now I don't really know what to do with the trade. Do you hold on to it? Do you tighten your stop? Do you just take what you have already? It makes it difficult. If there's a strong bar coming the other way, then I get out of the trade. And if it's a continuation strong in the same direction, then I make a lot of money. But this in-between thing, I have to say, is somewhat annoying. Now, you can look technically and see that it might be overextended, it might be starting to round, but obviously that is not enough for me when you're in the middle of a trade, because obviously the momentum could easily continue and turn around, or it could spike up and round out and continue and at least come back up to test this level. So with that kind of unclear technical signal, that makes it a little difficult for me to manage the trade. and to know exactly what to do with it. And so that's what I talk about when I say the market's kind of annoying. It just it's not doing anything really with a lot of authority or a lot of convincing effort, so to speak. And so that's not what I want to see. I want to see clear technical signs. The Euro AUD is another one. The Euro AUD moved a decent amount today because of the odd news and the odd weakness. But now we're in another weird situation where obviously the Euro AUD has a ton of downward momentum. I mean, this thing took off after this break. Tons of downward momentum. And you can see that today's bar was just kind of a random rally back up to the previous high of this bar. So for me, again, that's just a confusing signal, which is what the market thrives on doing, is being confusing. But now I really don't know if we're going to reverse this again, and my tendency is to believe that it's just bounced because of odd news, and that's not really a legitimate technical sign. So stay short, continue to be short on Euro AUD. But at the same time, I mean, this is a double bottom, a solid base, and it could easily spike right up through with a lot of momentum in the following days. So, it's just a difficult thing for me to analyze. And obviously, the whole point of this is the analysis. And so, market days like this, it makes it more difficult for me to analyze. So, I don't really know where I stand on Euro AUD either. I can't possibly be bullish on Euro AUD just because of one candle that happened to be bullish because of news. Yet I'm weary of being over bearish too, because there's the possibility that this is a base and it does have some momentum behind it trying to push up. So that's a little bit tricky. Now, one way you could trade this is kind of draw somewhat of a trend line. However, you can get a trend line to go here for the overall direction, and then wait until it try to get a retrace up a little higher and then go for shorting again. That might be one way to handle this market. But of course, if this is all the retrace we get is this one lousy bar and it shoots back down tomorrow, then obviously you're going to miss a great trade, or you're going to wish that you stayed in the trade if you're already short. So that's just a tough situation, and I don't like when the market does things like this. I want it to either fly away in one direction where it's clear. This was a major broken level here with a very strong bar, and then you'd think that after this major broken level, the momentum would increase, but actually it's decreased. We've had a few blue bars and not a lot of ground being made up, whereas before the level was broken, I mean, this thing was flying down. So that's just another thing that the market does. It'll play games with you. When you think it's overextended, it'll go more, and when you think it's broken a key level and it has room to go, then all of a sudden it'll start dying down and struggling and throwing reversal signals at you. So the Euro AUD is just another pair that I really don't know where I stand on. I'm definitely not bullish, but I'm weary of being over bearish as well. Speaking of AUD, let's look at AUD dollar. Again, AUD was very weak today because of the news, which actually occurred last night, but obviously on this daily bar. So again, we're in the situation where the AUD has come down quite a bit, and for me, I was thinking this was going to be a pretty good long opportunity. We came up, we had this little rally here, we came up, we had this little rally to the downside here, and I thought we were going to continue up. And I thought this little blue bar was going to, show continuation to make a higher high past this one. And instead, we had a big bearish bar. So just, again, that puts me in a situation where it's difficult to know, where my sentiment should lie with the AUD dollar. Now, one thing to notice is there is a pretty key level here. So it's not surprising that price would struggle here. It's not a random struggle. But still, you want some more clear direction. And so, with AUD dollar, what my thinking is that this could definitely be a rounding out and a continuation to the upside. It's just taking a little more time, perhaps, than I want to round, and I think that's definitely a possibility. But the problem is, it means you have to wait longer. And there's a lot of pairs that I've already been suggesting you just got to wait on. Just continue to wait and wait and wait until something develops. And obviously that can get boring. And as humans, especially as traders, at least for me, we're impatient. So it's difficult just to keep waiting. But when the market acts like this, you don't want to get involved in it, because you don't want to, you don't want to make a mistake just out of boredom or impatience. That would obviously be a very poor reason to lose money. I know that I don't want to lose money just because my personality wants me to jump into a trade without any kind of technical confluence or backup on it. So odd dollar, again, I just think it's something we have to unfortunately wait on, get a better signal, let it break a high, let it build a better base and show momentum in the bullish direction, or let it collapse through the bottom level. I mean, if price collapsed to this level to the downside, then hey, maybe we're headed back to test the top of this trend line here. So definitely an option there as well. So either way though, it means you got to wait for it. So as traders, we just got to kind of be okay with waiting, and that's one of the most important things. All right, pound dollar showed actually some pretty bearish symptoms today. It kind of, as you can see towards the end of the day, it is kind of backing off. But this pin bar was a good short signal, although I wasn't really looking forward to shorting it because it's in a pretty nice base here of support, obviously. But today's daily bar carried right through there. I mean, you can see that it didn't really struggle whatsoever going through that level, and almost touched the top of our level here, almost. So at least pound dollar is actually showing some pretty strong momentum, which is nice that it's that it's showing something there. But even with that, it's close enough to this support level that you might think that this bounce is for real, and it's actually going to be very bullish. So even though it at least showed a little more movement, a little more intensity than the other pairs today, for me it's actually just as confusing as the rest, because I think we're close enough to a support zone here where you're thinking it might bounce. And then of course one thing that you might want to look at is this little very shallow trend line. Whoops. That we kind of we are establishing maybe it's gonna come back up and touch in here. So that's also something to look at. But with pound dollar, again, it's just there's so much support and resistance and just choppiness all through here that it's very difficult to make trading decisions. I actually don't think that I've made a pound dollar trade in a good amount of time just because of that. I just wanted to break out of the bottom or the top completely so we can get out of these zones where it seems to be so unpredictable. Okay, let's look at pound New Zealand. Now, pound New Zealand, again, because New Zealand was very weak today, pound shot up quite a bit, and you can see that the daily bar at one point today was very strong bullish bar. It was all the way coming pretty close to testing this level. But it retreated pretty nicely back to the downside. Now, until today, I thought this little rally of 3 bullish bars right here and then a bearish bar was going to be a pretty good short signal. If you see what I'm saying here, we had 3 and then an inside bar back to the downside. I thought that was going to be a great bearish continuation because I'm always looking to be bearish on the pound New Zealand. So I took a short right here, and obviously I got stopped out very quickly on this. My stop loss was like 120 pips, and it took it out in a hurry. So pound New Zealand certainly faked me out on this one. Now I'm thinking bearish again now that this bar is kind of retreating back to the downside. But I have to say that both New Zealand and AUD, although I think they both have the capability to gain some strength, are very unreliable lately. They're whipping around. They have not been very reliable. So it makes me somewhat nervous to be short on pound New Zealand, even though it's one of my favorite things to be short on. I guess maybe the best way to play this would be to wait just to make sure that it does break and actually become bearish today or tomorrow, and then look for the short. But again, pound New Zealand, another difficult pair because for sure my sentiment is short based on all the momentum and also this little pullback. But at the same time, with New Zealand being so unpredictable and the market, being able to move so much based on news, especially with pound New Zealand, it makes trading decisions more difficult. Okay, EURCAD. Now EURCAD was great. This is basically the only pair that that I was happy with today, because not only did it show very nice continuation, but it also broke a very key level. And let me go to the weekly chart to show you the level that we broke here. Okay, here it is. Okay, so we just basically broke the all-time low for EURCAD. You can see I've scrolled all the way back here on the weekly chart, and you can see that this is basically all-time low territory, and so that is some pretty sweet stuff. You know, if you're bearish on EURCAD, it looks like the CAD is being a little more consistent than the AUD or the New Zealand, because today's daily bar obviously followed through very nicely. Now again, that is definitely partial to the news, because Australia had news, and I think New Zealand was affected quite a bit by that. But all the same, the EURCAD is the only pair really that for me showed a lot of convincing follow through in the direction that I was already my sentiment was already in the bearish direction, obviously, and I've been talking about the bearish signals for quite some time. And the one thing I said is that if it breaks this level, then we are going to be in really good shape. So let me scroll back here to the weekly. Okay, so you can see that this level has been maybe slightly broken a few other times, and obviously retraced very fast and very high back up. Okay, so with that in mind, what I would say here is that we're either going to have a very good long opportunity if this retraces and turns into a bullish candle, because it's probably going to rally significantly from being down so low, or if it's going to free fall and continue to go down, it's a very nice bear signal. So that's what I love about this pair, whereas the other pairs is very confusing. I'm not sure what to think. On this pair in particular, I think that there's a very good opportunity. If it bounces, it'll be a good long, and if it follows through, maybe comes back and tests this level slightly, but follows through to the downside, I think it'll be a great short. So for me, the EURCAD right now is showing great technical signs, and definitely something that I'm looking forward to trading, unlike most of the other pairs at this current time. Okay, so keep your eye on EURCAD. I think that could be a really great opportunity to trade. Okay, let's look at one more thing here. Where are we at? Oh, pound yen. Okay, I've been asked a few times to pay a little more attention to pound yen, so I want to go ahead and do that. Now remember, yesterday we talked about being at a bit of a base here with pound yen, and I'll draw that right here. Quite a bit of tails there on pound yen. Where you see these three, and then if you maybe move it up, you can kind of justify that these two might sit on that resistance level as well, or support level as well, excuse me. And it did make some momentum through that. The problem is, let me get rid of these lines to make this a little more clear. The problem is that the level is really much bigger than that, because all of this kind of consolidation and choppiness is one big level of crap. It's support and resistance mixed and mashed and just chopped. So pound yen might be able to break out here and provide us with a good short signal if it can continue this for one more day. But right now I don't think we're quite there, just because I don't think that it hasn't broken through this level and this tail here. It's still sitting right at the bottom of this level. So if it can continue one more day, I'd say we have a nice short signal, maybe targeting the bottom of this little rally here. But I don't think we're quite there yet. So that's definitely something to look out for, and you can keep your eye on that for sure. But I just don't think we're quite there yet. Alright, and I think the pound yen is the last thing that I wanted to look at. Hopefully covering these pairs has been beneficial to you. I know we've got a lot of great comments about people enjoying the analysis and tuning in each day for it, and so that makes me really happy, because I do this. It doesn't take obviously a ton of my time, but I try to be diligent about it and do it to really be helpful and beneficial for you guys. So I do hope that I am accomplishing that goal and that it is beneficial. And I want to remind you to please always leave your thoughts and comments or any questions you might have below these videos. We don't get a ton of comments on them normally, probably because the analysis is pretty self-explanatory. But if you are thinking something or you do have a question, feel free to put it on there. And don't forget that it might be something that can get a good conversation started with other traders who are checking out the analysis. And it's always good to learn things from other traders and other people who are engaging obviously in the same activity as you and as me. Alright, so feel free to do that, and enjoy your trading tomorrow. Good luck, be wise, and I'll talk to you soon.